Nvidia just dropped Nvidia Chat with RTX, and it's way more interesting than I expected. In order to understand why, I think it's important to better understand what it means to have one of these GPT models and run it locally. If you just want to see me playing with it, I'll be sure to put a timestamp in the description so you can skip straight there. In order to understand what's so interesting here, first we need to know what a GPT is. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's how almost all of these models work. Companies like OpenAI have hundreds upon hundreds of super powerful GPUs running against millions upon literal billions of pieces of data to make a generic, kind of simplified version of that data set that is able to take an input and transform it into the output you're looking for, like with a chatbot. If you want to see what this looks like, you can actually run open source models locally. You might have heard of Llama, which is Meta's open source machine learning models they've been working on for a while now. Meta's been committed from day one to doing almost all their AI and ML stuff as open source. And that commitment really shows with things like the Llama models being open, as well as projects like Ollama being born around it. And Ollama's pretty dope. It's the easiest way to locally run these machine learning models that are already created. I'm using it on Mac. You can build it yourself on Windows with Windows Subsystem for Linux, but definitely don't recommend that at this point in time. We'll talk about Windows in a bit, don't worry. Once you have it installed, it's actually pretty easy to run, and you can pick any of many of these different pre-trained models. I'm a big fan of Mistral and the Mixtral model. You can check out my video I did a while back about why Mistral is so weirdly cool. But all of these models are open for anyone to use, and in this case, run locally. So let's just give it a shot. Ollama, run Mistral. If you don't already have the model, download it. It will go fetch it for you here too. Really handy. That was taking some time to spin up, but let's ask some questions. Hello, how are you feeling today? As you can see, it's pretty fast because it's doing it locally, and the Mistral model is super quick. In this case, it doesn't have a real response, which is notable. We can ask it a bit more, like, what types of questions should I ask you about? Great answer. But this is only great if it already knows the things we're looking for. Like, it has a bunch of random data embedded in it, like, who won the Super Bowl in 2005? So it has a ton of data in here, but it doesn't have all of the data we might need, like something more modern, like what's the most recent YouTube video Theo T3.gg released? It doesn't have internet access, so it doesn't have the ability to figure these things out. But I can ask it, why might the current viewer not be subscribed yet? Over half of my viewers haven't hit the subscribe button, despite it being free. Can you tell the viewer why they should subscribe for me? According to Mistral, you should subscribe because I'm consistent, you get exclusive access to additional features, engagement, supporting my creative endeavors, and staying informed and up to date. Hit the subscribe button if you can. As you can see, this is kind of limited. If I wanted, let's say, go over a video transcript and ask it questions about it, I have to do some weird stuff to pipe it in. So first I will close this because I noticed when I'm using the built-in CLI tool, it doesn't work here at all. But I actually went out of my way to download a script from one of my videos. This is my video comparing and contrasting different CSS solutions. It's one of my longer videos. It's over an hour long. And I figured it'd be nice to ask an AI to summarize it. So here I am manually piping the output of a cat call to that video text file and then asking Mixtral to summarize it for me. I'll click enter quick, see how this takes. It's not super slow. Definitely not as fast as the previous run. It's a long text, so I don't fault it. Since the only name I say in the video is Adam Wathan, it assumes that I'm Adam Wathan. But other than that, pretty accurate here. I agree the libraries can limit the quality of an application's architecture and user experience, and it's better for front-end developers to own their style systems and build applications that are not limited by the libraries they choose. Wathan particularly praises Tailwind for making him faster at developing style systems, improving his skills in CSS, and not enforcing a ceiling to the quality of what he can ship. Yeah, that's a decently accurate summary, minus the name being wrong. I did run that on Mixtral, and it was pretty slow, so I'll quickly run this on Mistral because I know it's a tiny bit faster. Just curious how much so. Yeah, that was a good bit faster. Oh, it's actually a little more accurate. It says the speaker instead of assuming it knows my name. Yeah, good summary. But that's just one video. What if I wanted to give it like a bunch of videos? What if I wanted to train it against all of my videos and ask it things like, what would Theo say about this? It's not going to be able to do that because as you saw, it takes a while to parse this one text file. You can't just throw it an infinite number. It's limited by how much input it can have. This is where Nvidia Chat with RTX starts to get really interesting really quickly. Because it's not just a traditional chatbot like we saw there, although it does let you use Mistral and Llama. It's actually based on retrieval-augmented generation, RAG. The concept is simple and kind of complex at the same time. You take an existing model, you then generate a mapping of different data, and you tell the first model, hey, use the second model map, whatever you want to call it, to determine which set of outputs we care about. It's like it's using the first AI to traverse the second AI data tree thing to get the best possible output for what you're asking based on that existing data. This is not something that I can quite as easily run on my laptop because it's somewhere between a traditional lookup with a GPT and actually training your own model from scratch. And that in between is something you need a lot of GPU power for. And this is why I have to do something I don't almost ever have to do on my channel. In fact, I can't remember the last time I did this. I have to switch to Windows because this only runs on Windows and my 3080 Ti is in my Windows computer. So I've already downloaded it. It was massive, like well over 30 gigabytes. And then it took a bunch of time to install because it had to install all the weird Python dependencies necessary to run something like this. And when it's running, you can't even see it, but it has a terminal, like a total mess of a CLI running with all of this stuff going on in the background. So it can produce our little chat server. When you first open up Chat with RTX after getting everything set up, this is what you're met with. A screen that has not many options. Specifically, it has these different weirdly game-related questions. The reason for that is it's pre-trained on an RAG set of 30.txt files that are for articles that were published by Nvidia. So this is the mess of a terminal it's running in. And here are all the files that it's created. This all just came by installing the bindings. I didn't download all these files. It's just basic examples like Half-Life 2 RTX. It's just their article in text. So what's happening here is it's parsing all of those and answering questions based on it. So I can ask it, when does Ratchet and Clank come out on PC? It's going to grab the article and tell you what it's referencing for that, which is, again, very interesting because if you've played with these AI models before, they're not usually very good at sourcing things properly. But since this limited set is directly being parsed and traversed by the existing GPT, it's much more accurate when it does such. You can also ask it questions that it needs to read all the data for, like, what was the first game released with RTX support? You might not actually know this because the articles are just the last 30. I'm actually pretty sure Portal Prelude was the first. It was one of the first announced for sure. So this might be accurate and it's citing it correctly. I can click this and it'll pull up the text file. Pretty cool. But this is what the data they've already given me. Where things get really interesting is when you provide your own data. Not only can you just provide a text, a PDF, or a doc, you can actually point it at something like a YouTube URL. So I'm going to go to my own channel where I have a playlist of what I consider best videos. So here's this playlist. It's unlisted, but you can now see the URL, do as you please. And in here, I can drop this link, hit download, and now it's going to download all those transcripts and dump them in here to be used as an RAG. So now it has all of this data trained on my YouTube channel. Let's ask it a question. What is Theo's favorite JavaScript library? Not very good. Let's give it another shot. What styling solutions does Theo recommend? Cool. Did a much better job that time. But just asking me questions is no fun. How about we ask Prime? I made a playlist here where I just grabbed a bunch of Prime's top videos, and we'll throw these in here instead. First, I need to delete. This is a really annoying UI quirk. If I don't delete these, it's going to keep parsing my videos, which we don't want it to do. We only want it to parse Prime. So I'm going to manually delete that first. Then we're going to go in here, press download again. While this is running, one more quick interesting thing. Notice something here? They're using Svelte for the UI. I thought that was interesting. Not a big deal, just something I didn't expect. Well, now let's ask it something that I'd want Prime's opinion on, like, what are some tips for an aspiring software developer? Learn from your peers, test your code, follow best practices, learn from your mistakes, practice code regularly, participate in coding challenges, learn from experts, and be patient. Look at that. All from Prime's I Solve 1,583 leak code questions video. Decent advice. Pretty cool that I can get personalized advice based on a data set like Prime's YouTube videos. I am very interested in this concept, and it's cool that they're not just releasing this, but they're open sourcing the core parts. Most of what we just saw is built around this TRT LLM RAG Windows, which that's the most crazy abbreviations and shorthands I've seen in front of something in a while. It's also very sad that the one proper noun here is Windows. Anyways, it's cool that you can do this and run it locally using the Tensorflow RT stuff. And it's also cool that it's open source. As far as I know, this is one of very, very few examples of using retrieval-augmented generation locally on your machine while taking advantage of all of these awesome new models. It's impressive stuff, and I'm hyped that it's open sourced. Huge shout out to Llama Index as well for being the key piece that ties a lot of this stuff together, letting you index things. You can see here, it's a little more complex though. You actually have to write a bunch of Python code to set things up yourself, whereas the NVIDIA stuff gives you an API and a UI for that. And now with this NVIDIA thing you can install is just a chat UI you can run as a single package on your local machine. So yeah, this is what it looks like running the stuff locally on my 3080 Ti instead of going to the cloud and doing everything through OpenAI. Curious what you guys think. I am honestly getting more and more excited about AI as we get more of these open models that I can run myself and do as I please with. But I'm curious what you guys think. Should I be doing more AI content, or is this way deeper than you care to go? Let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to think about it in the future. Thank you guys as always. See you in the next one. Peace, nerds.